buddy. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Christian. Good morning out there.
Welcome to TCA. We are live at Weinig Holz-Her USA here in Mooresville, North Carolina.
Changed up our shot a bit this morning.
We did. We're still in our showroom here in Mooresville, which actually is a testament to how expansive our showroom really is here.
About 25,000 square feet of showroom or so.
Yeah, that's right. So in the background today, as you guys can see, we have a Shoda router, which we'll talk a little bit about later on in TCA today.
Also, we should give some forewarning that,
What's that?
Also, right now is supposed to be the beginning of a demonstration of a saw. We think that you won't be able to hear it because we think that our microphones will filter that out, but just in case you start hearing some noise, or you may actually notice that we're distracted and looking in that direction, we apologize in advance if that gets too distracting for you watching at home.
Yeah, we got some, we have some demos happening today, and yeah, that first one is happening here in just a few minutes. So dust collection is going to be roaring, saw's going to be cutting, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
That is also to say that we are live, as we are every week. So we're live. Both of us are monitoring Facebook and YouTube. So if you are watching us on either of those platforms, give a shout out, tell us hello, make us feel not so lonely up here.
Yeah, because you may have thought we canceled the show after we didn't go live last week. And
we took a week off.
Apologize for that. There was a lot going on last Tuesday in the building, and we decided that maybe it was not a good time to try to put TCA in the middle of all of it.
So we're back this week, and we are actually going to be bringing you TCA next week from customer location, a shop tour.
Going back on the road.
Back on the road. We're going out to California and to Elements Manufacturing, and it's going to be a great time. I am super excited. If you guys haven't seen TCA on the road, it is just a great time. We sit down with actual shop managers, shop owners, talk about real life situations that are happening in their shop and how they're dealing with it, and then we take you on a tour of their shop to show you the flow through their production facility.
And it's been incredibly interesting for me, especially to see how these shops in different parts of the country, how they handled last year, because there were a lot of things that were thrown at us that couldn't have been expected. And then many of our customers, many of the companies in our industry thrived in the middle of it. So it's been interesting to learn just what they did, and we'll learn more about that next week.
Yeah, to overcome and then thrive in that situation.
Yeah.
Just a quick plug that if you've missed TCA on the road before, all of those videos are archived on Facebook and on YouTube. Go back and check them out. In fact, I was just watching our tour of Crenshaw Lumber that we did. That must have been about 4 or 5 months ago. The guys over at Crenshaw Lumber, they're also in California. Great tour of really just a fabulous outdoor lumber facility. Yeah, and it was excellent.
The Southern California way to process lumber.
Yeah, where it rains for 20 minutes every few weeks. So so put everything outside. So anyway, so we're going to get down into it this morning. Andy's got some information.
But first, we have some shout outs here.
A few shout outs. Go ahead.
Andreas is wondering where your coffee cup is, because it is the TCA. That's what he says. It's the TCA, Christian.
So everyone watching, TCA stands for Tuesday's Coffee Address. I have finished my coffee for the morning, so my cup didn't make it this morning.
And we also want to say good morning to Jay watching in Chicago, and Mr. Mike watching for wherever he's watching. I think he's been a bit under the weather. We hope you feel better, Mike.
Oh, all right, yeah. Everyone watching, thanks for watching. Give us a shout out. Let us know where you're watching from. So, Andy, what is going on in the world, especially in our industry?
In our industry, well, so something that's a little broader. I tend to focus mostly on housing, and this is connected to that, but it's coming from a source that maybe we wouldn't have thought of before. It's Kiplinger.
Okay. Yes.
Is a financial news outlet. It's a website where they track trends in GDP, and not specific to any industry, but they look at what industries, what are the factors that are causing GDP in the U.S. to go up or to go down. And so what they are reporting now is that the GDP is expected to grow 5.3% in the U.S. this year in 2021,
Right.
and the driving factor of that is housing.
Okay.
It's the housing industry. Some other outlets are saying that Forbes, for example, is saying that in 2020 we saw a rise in home sales. Of course, we've talked about that a lot here, and then we've talked about how inventory has run up and things are changing. New construction is becoming the big thing. That's what they're talking about. New construction is driving the industry because housing starts are a big part of what's going on in our economy. But in 2020, there were more existing homes that were sold than any year since 2006.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty wild. That in 2020, the year that was so uncertain, and then housing, of course, continued to be the saving grace, I guess, for the economy. But yeah, more homes were sold in 2020 than any year since 2006.
Right. And you know what? And while this, I'm going to go on an aside here, because while this, what I'm about to say really doesn't have to do with the woodworking industry, big shout out to all the realtors. You know, I mean, talk about having to adapt and having to pivot in a crazy time of 2020. I mean, yeah, that must have been, I've never been a realtor, but I have to say that must have been just something that came out of completely left field for them.
So it was a lot of business, but it was also, but there were new challenges, right?
A lot of challenges,
my
right?
sister-in-law is a realtor, actually, and so some of the things that she had to do, you know, showing up and having to wear gloves, wear a mask, you know, all the things that you just don't think about when you're looking at a house.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
The touchless environments that we had to be in, and in a very social industry, right? I mean, how do you sell a house if you can't socialize like you used to?
And then all the virtual tours of houses where really prior to last year, virtual tours were really reserved for more of the high-end luxury homes. And now you have just about every home having a virtual tour online. So hey, shout out to all you realtors if you're actually watching us this morning. So that's my aside. Back to our industry. So
back to our industry.
But yeah, so 2020 was a great year for residential construction. We've talked about that. We're looking for it to grow even more this year. Now,
new housing starts, because like we said, inventory ran a little low. People
Right.
are not selling right now because they're realizing that if they sell their home, then that just means that they have to buy a more expensive home. So that's what's driving new housing starts. Now I've heard stories of people that are they can't buy a house. They've decided they want to build a house, and they're on a waiting list with as many as 4 different builders, because it's just, builders are booming right now. There's so much growth on the new housing starts, which is great for our industry. They're actually predicting about a 12.5% increase of housing starts through 2021 over 2020, which was already which was going in the right direction then. So we're expecting big things from the housing industry this year.
So this goes to I think speak of that I believe that we are getting back into, at least our industry is getting back into a comfortable forecasting mode.
Yeah.
We're able to, our crystal ball is getting maybe a little bit less foggy.
Yeah.
In 2020, we just didn't know what was going to be around the corner, and now it's becoming a little bit more clear. That path is becoming a little bit more clear, and it is encouraging to see shops starting to invest in technology, machinery, solutions, whatever it may be, even people, to gear up, tool up for this new future of growth. And I think that this is something that we should talk about, Andy, because I mean, you've seen it. You talk to shops all the time, as do I, and we're starting to see those progressive shops say, okay, I was in a bit of a holding pattern, but the crystal ball is becoming a little bit more clear. I'm starting to be able to forecast with a little bit more certainty. Now it's time to actually, plot a course of progression, plot a course for growth.
Right, and also they're coming out from under, normal's what you're used to. I've said that a lot here. So good or bad, we have settled into a bit of a new normal. We're kind of coming out of the crisis. We're certainly not out of it by any means, but we're getting a little bit more used to being in this environment of the COVID-19 virus. And in 2020, because people were trying to learn how to pivot and to still continue to thrive in the midst of all of the new challenges, there were a lot of the companies at the highest end companies, excuse me, not necessarily the highest end, but the largest volume,
Yes.
the largest companies in the highest revenue companies in our industry, they had to kind of quit thinking about anything other than just, if they had an infection in their plant,
right?
they had to pause because they were having to get used to, okay, we got to shut the facility down, we got to send everybody home, we got to disinfect the whole place, and how do we bring them back? So what was taking several weeks to do, they got it down to just a few days. So they got really good at that, which is, also it's good that they were able to pivot and get good at it. It's bad that they had to get used to shutting their business down and reopening, and that's all they could think about. So this year now they can start thinking about, okay, how do I get more efficient? How do I make up for a bit of lost time in my technology curve of trying to get more efficient?
Right, and seeing the financial trends of today, they're able to look at the future and say, okay, we can invest, because people and shops and in this industry are feeling more and more confident about going forward.
We can invest at every level. We can invest because we see the need to automate, and we also see the actuality is that even with the interest rates expected to go up this year, they're still incredibly low.
They are.
Mortgage rates right now are at about 2.79, around 2.8% is the average right now. They're expected to go up this year, but they're not expected to exceed 3.4%. So that's still that's still cheap money.
Absolutely, absolutely it is. So you shops out there, we'd be interested in what you guys think. What do you think? Are you starting to invest? Were you investing last year, or were you kind of playing the waiting game like most of us? And do you feel like it's safe now to invest, or are you still waiting? I'll be interested to know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right, should we talk about this this big beast of a machine that's behind us here?
Yeah. What is behind us, Andy?
Well, we've talked about it since I guess our first big announcement was during the retool.
Yes.
When we had the Shota CNC here on the floor.
About 6 months ago, maybe
about
8
6
months
months
ago, we had this installed onto our showroom
And
floor.
we haven't shown a lot since then, we thought we would maybe circle back. I hate to use those terms because that's becoming, there are a lot of memes right now that are saying circle back. We thought we'd come back to discuss the Shota. We like to focus on different technology, and we just thought we'd take a little bit of time to talk some about the Shota because many of you are familiar with it. I've been more familiar with it just because of my background being in CNC routers, and I was telling Christian earlier I had a story that I was going to talk about as to how I found out about Shota or the history that I understand of Shota. I was a young sales guy in our industry, and I was traveling around with a gentleman in the western part of North Carolina, going in to see a lot of different places.
So this segment, just so everyone knows, this is a new segment to TCA called Story Time with Andy Turner. So please, Andy, how did you?
Well, let me tell you a story.
Yeah,
about that,
how did Shota come about here in the US?
This is as I understand it. So I have not fact checked this, but as I understand it, there was a company in western North Carolina over in the Hickory area. Maybe Conover might have been the first location. Broyhill had a location over there, and as I understand it, they put a different manufacturer. This was in the 80s. CNC was a bit of a new technology for furniture plants.
Yeah.
And they wanted to take, one of them decided to roll the dice, take a gamble on a CNC. They bought a different brand, and fairly quickly, after getting through the learning curve, they realized it wasn't going to hold up to their production needs and demands. Because if you've done much business in the furniture world, you know that they're pretty demanding, they're pretty rough on equipment. And so the next step was they heard about this machine from Japan that was available that also was a CNC router. And they thought they'd take a swing at that, and they put in the Shota. The Shota was by far the way it was constructed, the reliability of it. So it ran every day, and it was built to the level that could withstand the abuse that the furniture world was going to put on it, and it really excelled in that environment. And that was kind of the springboard for Shota into the U.S. And after that, over probably the next 15 years or so, there were hundreds of Shotas that were placed just in North Carolina, really. Mm-hmm. North Carolina, Virginia, where the furniture was being built at the time, and from there it just kept coming. I heard stories of that Shota would actually put machines in containers, send them over, call the local dealer in North Carolina, tell him what was on the way, and it would be sold before it hit land.
So it's in high demand.
It had high demand. There was supply and demand. There was very high demand.
Yeah. So all right. So now, Andy, I guess tell everybody a little bit more, because your background is with routers. CNC routers are in a host of different industries, manufacturing industries throughout the U.S. and the world. But what, you just made mention that in the furniture industry, they take a little bit more of a beating than others. So can you explain to everybody the difference if you're a panel processing shop making cabinet components or box parts? What's the difference between just nesting out 3/4 material versus what Shodas are capable of?
Well, so there's a wide variety of answers, I guess, to that question. But typically in the panel processing world, in the cabinet industry, the volume is going to be a little lower. We absolutely have some companies that have a high volume of production, but for the most part, we've talked about it before, most of our business, 80 to 85% of the customers that we work with are going to be in that categorized as a small business, and many of them are doing probably less than $5 million a year in business. So in those cases, the speed of the machine it's important, but it may not be the same required, or it may not have the same requirement as you would have in a furniture world where you're making furniture frames that need to be done quickly, because it's going to, if it takes too long to cut a sheet of parts in the furniture world, then it makes the frame too expensive.
Sure.
And people aren't going to buy it, especially if you're selling a frame to an OEM of furniture, of upholstered furniture, and that frame is too expensive. They're not going to buy it. Number one, and if they do buy it, then it makes their furniture it raises the price too much, and people aren't going to buy it. So that's part of it, is that just the actual speeds. Now they are cutting mostly plywood in that industry as well.
That's right. Yep.
Which is a little different than the melamine or the particle board that's cut a lot. Yeah, there is some plywood that's cut in the panel processing world as well, but the plywood that is here, again, trying to save some costs. Sometimes it's very structurally it's sound, but sometimes you don't know what's in it.
That's exactly right. You don't know what kind of voids are in it.
Actually, well, not voids. I saw a piece that somebody cut out one time where there was somebody left a set of channel locks. They got pressed into the board, and they kept breaking router bits going through it, and they couldn't figure out what was going on, and there was a whole channel lock in there. But also the speed. So the speed of the machine and the acceleration and deceleration of the machine, it takes a toll on itself. Components start to wear out because you have a lot of mass that's moving and starting and stopping quickly. So that's a way that it requires a little heavier machine. So yeah, Shoda is typically going to be a more expensive machine than what you would see in a typical cabinet producing environment.
I see. Okay, right.
But it kind of has to be because of the way it's constructed. It has to be a little heavier so it can hold up in those environments. And so when you get into heavy solid wood, a lot of those furniture plants are cutting very thick, very heavy sleigh bed posts, for example. I remember seeing a lot of those that were being done. When you get into cutting 4-inch thick out of large panels, and these machines would have multiple heads where they might be cutting 8 of them at a time, so to have a machine that can support the load that's being applied by 8 spindles cutting through 4-inch thick material at a time, it's a little different level, and so we are excited to be able to offer that again, because it disappeared for a while, and in my former life I had a lot of success because I didn't have to compete against the Shoda, so they disappeared, and I was selling a lot of machines.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a little bit. So yeah, there were years where Shoda's representation in the U.S. was just not what it used to be, we've said it many times on live streams here when we and Shoda came together and decided to carry Shoda in the U.S., it was not something that would impede on any of our Holz-Her products. It's a different animal.
Yeah, it plays in a different sandbox.
It really does. And so we looked at that as a great opportunity, and also not just a great opportunity to offer more machines, but really a great opportunity to bring that back to the U.S. to actually have representation, because it was successful. And we think that it can be again.
Yep. Yeah, we're incredibly excited. Of course, since those early days of Shota, the evolution of that was that the machines began to have multiple spindles. In a lot of cases, it was to make multiple parts, but in some cases, it was just simply because there were no tool changers that were available. And so they used different spindles to have different tools in it to do different operations, different operations on the part. That has changed, you know, and just like anything, so you can still absolutely, if you just want to cut multiple parts at once, Shota has the ability to put multiple spindles on the machine. But some of the places where I was talking before about the furniture world, where that plywood is very structural, but it's also not, because of the process that it goes through, and because of the material that is being pressed in there, sometimes it's not very flat. A lot of times it's not very flat.
Right, exactly.
So so Shota has the ability now in a very fast machine that can accelerate and decelerate very quickly, but it also has a system of rollers that will hold down. So you use vacuum to pull down, like what we're used to in the router world. You have vacuum to hold the sheet down from below. You have rollers to press down from on top.
I see.
So that helps to be able to still achieve those speeds that are required and hold those parts that are going to be now. I mean, the parts are much smaller that are being cut for a furniture frame as well. They're not large rectangles. A lot of times they're small, maybe
Smaller
inch
parts.
and a half thick wide parts that are going to be not even straight in a lot of cases.
Right. So yeah, so we thought that, you know, this would just be a good time again to tell you guys a little bit about Shota. You know, all our Holzer sales you know, staff in the U.S. knows all about it. You know, if you're interested, just contact your Holzer expert, be able to give you more information about these routers. If you want to see one run, if you're really curious just to see, you know, okay, what are the differences? I just, you know, this sounds like it might fit my operation. Schedule a demo. That's why we got this guy here, right here. Is
we can do it virtually or in person. We can do it
virtually or in person, either way you'd like. You know, our showroom is open. That's something that we should just, you know, on the side, just let people know. We got, actually, we have some customers in right now. Our showroom is open. We are taking all the safety protocols into account. But we realize that traveling still is not, it may not be very convenient.
It's not, there aren't the same flights.
And it's still not totally accepted everywhere. So we are continuing to offer virtual demos, and they are great. They are a great way to be able to see a machine in action. Let us know what you want run. We'll run the parts. We'll ship you the parts. We'll get you on a video call and walk you through the actual process live here in our showroom in Mooresville. Yeah, and it's a great time. It doesn't take very much time at all. We do virtual demos. Many times someone requests a demo and we do them the next day.
Close to 100 virtual demos, virtual private demos last year.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
So so we've gotten to where that's kind of where this all came from. You know, we told you before, we were using the TCA as a way to experiment and try new things. How could we live stream? How could we get better at it? And that was so we could be better at these the private demonstrations we were doing virtually.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we have made great strides in that area. All right, so we're wrapping it up.
But before we wrap it up, though,
well, go ahead, Andy. Go ahead.
We have to mention our Answers from the Tool Room series.
Oh,
right?
Answers of the Tool Room.
We want to make sure that you guys know about that. It's if you go to our YouTube channel.
Great series.
Go to
such a cool series.
USA, Weinig Holz-Her USA on YouTube. Go to the channel. Subscribe to it because we're starting to add a lot of content to it. They are quick videos. I saw one of them yesterday. It was only 1.5 minutes.
Yeah,
and the longest one 3 minutes. So super quick. It's not a commitment like like watching the TCA would be.
Like watching the TCA. Those of you who are watching right now, thank you for your commitment.
But we want to make sure that you know that we are adding very specific topics to this. How to do a certain task with a machine, and those tasks have been coming from our technicians that are in the field. Our technicians that are on the diagnostics line, what are the questions that are most asked, and how, and because a lot of times the ones that are asked the most are very easy things to fix, and so maybe it's not even a fix, maybe it's just something that needs to be worked in the maintenance thing.
Sometimes it's just adjustments to the machine.
We're adding constantly to the library. We're trying to add one per week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to continue to fill that library with that. So subscribe to our channel so you'll get notifications when those new videos go up.
And also let us know if you have thoughts about what you'd like to see.
That would be exactly my next point.
Those how-tos, right? So some of our more recent videos that are in post-production right now were actually filmed because of questions that we got through the comments on our existing videos, which is great. Because that just goes to show it's a community, right? And that's what we're really striving for on our YouTube channel, is to build that sense of community where we have a video library resource for you folks that are either interested or have our machines. This is for you. And so so check it out. Subscribe to the channel, as Andy said. Let us know your thoughts. If you want to see something in particular, let us know, and we'll make a video about it. Absolutely.
While you're there are other playlists. We talked about the tour of Crenshaw. There are factory tours that we've done. They're there. There are, every TCA is there if you want to go back and watch one of those. But
that's what I do.
and we've done other product focused, at the product level, going through everything in one of the Weinig or the Holz-Her products. But the new answers from the tool room is more specific to questions that we've gotten from you out there in the field that are using these machines every day, as to how do we do this task. Maybe you just need a refresher. So this will also be there forever. So if you find it once and you use that tip to maintain your machine in your shop, and later on you need to do it again, maybe it's a few months later, you need to work that back into your maintenance and you've forgotten, rather than take the phone call and wait for somebody to call you back or be on hold or whatever, taking the time, find the video, go right back to it, and you can work that into your maintenance routine. So yeah, we're excited about that. Christian's been working very hard on that. Apparently it takes longer than 3 minutes to make one of the 3-minute videos.
It does. It takes a few minutes
at
longer.
At least 5, right?
A few minutes longer than 3 minutes to make the 3-minute video. But man, we are doing it, and like Andy said, we are excited about it. We're getting a lot of good feedback about that series. So go on YouTube, check it out,
and
subscribe. All right. So a few things before we sign off today. Everyone, remember, next week we are live on location. Andy and I will be out in California.
And Andreas, they have lots of Holz-Her equipment. I don't know if they have a 6215 like you've requested to be in the background, but they do have some Holz-Her equipment, and we will be highlighting that next week.
That's right. And the who is Elements Manufacturing. Elements Manufacturing in California will be there next week. We're really excited about that. Just keep an eye on our Facebook and our YouTube page, and we'll put up the times for TCA and the times for the live shop tour that we'll be doing out there. Super excited about that. Super excited to get back on the road. And then after that, we'll be back here in Mooresville with some new exciting content about what's going on in our showroom. So as always, make sure you follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and
one last thing,
keep in touch.
Sorry to make this go even longer, but if you are like Elements, like Crenshaw, like Quality First, like Cutter, the places that have been gracious enough to let us come in and see their facilities and bring that to everyone here in our market. If you are a shop, that you would like us to come, let us know. Let us know. That's what we want to do. We're ready to. If we do a on-site TCA once a month in 2021, we'll be perfectly okay and happy with that. That'd be great.
That would be great. It's always good to go out there and highlight what others are doing. Absolutely. Yep. All right, so folks, we'll see you next week live on Tuesday from California. Keep an eye on our Facebook and our YouTube pages for more information about that and times that we'll be live streaming. But for now and for this week, and for myself and Andy, stay healthy, stay positive, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great week.